So welcome to one of our director interviews. I am your Undersecretary General of Public Relations. My name is Danielle Villar, and with me today is Hannah Kaufman. She is going to be directing the Israeli-Palestinian Committee this year. So how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. So why don't you start off by telling me a little bit about the committee and yourselves?
Okay. So I guess I'll start with myself. That's the easier side, I think. I'm Hannah. I'm a senior. I'm the Director of External Affairs for our Model UN Club here at UF. I'm studying political science with a minor in Chinese, and I'm also very active in an organization here on campus called J Street U, which actually works in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's like the student organizing arm of J Street, which is like a pro-Israel, pro-peace in the Middle East lobbying group in DC. So obviously, this topic is very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
So our committee is going to be set up as a JCC, so one side being Israel and one side being Palestine. The year is 2017. Bernie Sanders is president. And there's been a large overhaul in terms of leadership in the Middle East. So we have the more center-left Labor Party has formed a large coalition. Yitzhak Herzog is the Prime Minister of Israel. And then there's been a large overhaul of the government in Palestine as well. So it's very different from the current political situation in Israel, Palestine, and the United States because of those large changes in leadership. So it should be pretty interesting,
Yeah.
I think, for the delegates to kind of understand, like, I think they need to understand 2015 and then this, like, the fantasy 2017.
Right.
But it puts them in a better negotiating position, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Especially because in the committee, we kind of start with Bernie Sanders. President Sanders has said, that sounds funny to say.
Yeah.
President Sanders has put a deadline, essentially, that the two parties, Israel and Palestine, have to complete negotiations by the end of the year. And then the following June, they have to have come up with kind of a framework for some sort of solution, whether that be two states or one state. Obviously, Sanders is in favor of a two-state solution. So some sort of framework there, or else the U.S. and Canada will cut all aid to both Israel and Palestine. So it's a high-pressure situation, but they are in a good position to negotiate. So that's an overview.
Yeah. No, it's going to definitely be an interesting position for the delegates.
Right.
So what would you say kind of like inspired you to do this committee?
So probably, my interest in the Middle East. I think, I say this all the time, but I think not enough people really understand their role in Israel and Palestine. It's kind of an intimidating conflict to talk about, just because it is, first of all, it's hundreds of years old. Like, it doesn't just go back to World War II, it goes back hundreds of years. This particular piece of land is very important to lots of different people for different reasons. But I think people feel, especially like other students feel, they don't have a role in talking about this conflict. And that's just not true. I think young Americans have a very important role in understanding this conflict and hopefully, making it better. So that's kind of what inspired me. I also think once people have the opportunity to negotiate from either side, they kind of start to understand why the conflict is the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important experience to have, and understanding it is, in MUN you kind of a lot of times you start to kind of take on the persona on a more personal level of whoever you're representing as a delegate. And I think that's really important to understanding why the conflict is so painful and so drawn out and so severe, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for people to kind of get to experience the conflict from both sides, or perhaps from a perspective they hadn't considered before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what are you looking forward to the most, like in terms of crisis elements?
In terms of crisis elements, we have a couple things cooked up that I'm not going to ruin that I'm pretty excited about, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the delegates stay grounded in reality, but also use that MUN creativity. So I'm a pretty flexible director. I like the creativity, I like the plots and, the things that kind of happen in crisis, like behind the scenes, the stuff that's like maybe a little less grounded in reality. So I'm excited for the delegates to kind of like toe the line on that sort of thing. So, they're making policy that makes sense for their person, but perhaps also, doing some stuff in the back that's like a little more, the things we think of that are typical crisis. So like assassination plots and, arrests and betrayal and all that stuff that makes crisis fun.
Yeah.
We have a big staff and 24 delegates, 12 on each side. So it should be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like there will be a lot of interaction, I hope, between the sides also. So that's something I look forward to as well, is kind of seeing like, are the sides going to work against each other or together?
Yeah.
Hopefully a little bit of both.
No, it'll be interesting to say the least. But what advice could you give to delegates?
The first piece of advice I would give is to know your stuff. So this is it's a big conflict. It's easy to get bogged down. I would say like keep all of your research very focused in like the last 10 years or so, and then know a lot about like the way politics functions both within your particular country, whether you're Israel or Palestine, and then also your relationship to other actors, so the United States, the rest of the P5. Kind of know your place in the world, your place in the region especially, because it'll be obvious in a committee like this if you don't know your stuff. The other thing I would say is definitely be creative. Like, I want people to keep their characters and their actions, especially in committee, grounded in reality. But as a director, I really like to see creative plots and big crisis arcs that people have like clearly planned out. You can kind of see the progression of their ideas over the course of the committee sessions. I think that's really fun, especially when they fit into our big crisis arc. So I really look forward to seeing what delegates come up with, because this kind of committee is very interesting because it is grounded in reality, but it's also not because it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you. All right, well, just to kind of like end things off, fun fact question. If you could pick any mentor from any time, place, who would you pick?
I think I would pick Eleanor Roosevelt. I think people don't give her enough credit, first of all, but she is basically like squad goals. My ideal squad would be like Eleanor Roosevelt and Michelle Obama, like First Lady squad. No, but I think she's such an incredible woman, especially if you kind of consider like where she came from and just like the fact that she was married to FDR, who was this kind of like iconic president, but she was really a huge part of his success as a president. I guess success or failure, depending on your political affiliation, but like she was a huge instrumental part of his success. And I also love that she's not really regarded as, this is gonna sound weird, she's not really regarded as like one of our most attractive first ladies, but I like that she got a lot done anyway. Like she didn't let that stop her. She was just she knew what her skills were and she worked them. Like she wasn't necessarily charming, but she was very intelligent, very ambitious, and just worked really, really hard. So like what better person to have a mentor,
No, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course.
And thank you everyone for watching. I will be posting more information about our social media and the conference down below, so thanks guys.